All right, 7:02, I call this meeting of the Education Option Committee to order. Welcome, everybody.
Howdy.
The first thing on the agenda tonight is to approve the minutes. Crystal, thank you so much for taking beautiful minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at those?
Yeah, they were awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, they were. All right, so if there's no changes or objections, I move that we accept the minutes from 7:13.
Second.
All those in favor?
Spec, aye.
Hi.
Phyllis, aye.
Okay.
That was
The next thing is Bobby with us tonight?
Yeah.
Bobby French offered to be the clerk going forward if she was taken onto the committee. Are you still willing to do that, Bobby?
I am.
Okay, so can we vote you in as your first note taking? I move that we vote Bobby French in as the clerk to take minutes and do whatever else the clerk does.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Spec, aye.
Aye. Okay, it's
That's
unanimous.
a quick unanimous. No, nobody wants
Yeah.
to fight me for it.
That was all yours. All right, the next thing on the agenda, moving right along, is the mission statement discussion. So we had a mission statement that we were supposed to think about, and I know you all did. And it was from Tom Speck suggested it, and it was to investigate the educational use of Phillipston Memorial School. And that's it. One sentence. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, or are we all pretty happy with that? I think it's short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I move that we make the mission statement, investigate educational options, maybe to investigate educational options at the Phillipston Memorial School. How about that?
Sounds good.
second.
The mission statement
you.
is to investigate education options at the Phillipston Memorial School.
Let me just read it one more time out loud. To investigate the educational use of Phillipston Memorial School. It's better the way Tom said it, and Crystal wrote it.
The educational use.
Yep. To investigate the educational use of the Phillipston Memorial School.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Did we get a second on that? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think
Tom.
Tom. Okay, moving right along. Tom, actually, you're up. Tom Doust. Town meeting article letter update. How did that go?
Yeah. I got people coming into the house, so you might hear other people. So I put that letter together. I sent that out. Hopefully people got a chance to take a look at that. I also put the, I don't know, the precursor or the byline not to respond to it because it could be in violation of open meeting law. I sent it out to the CAO, Kevin Flynn, and I called him up to confirm because I wanted to make sure it got there. He confirmed that it got there. And I don't know, maybe Gerhard can let us know, or Bernie, if you guys got that letter from the Education Options Committee.
I got one.
Yeah. And essentially that letter was everything that we discussed here and we voted on to put forward to the select committee. And I can pull that letter up and read it if you want me to, but I think we all saw it.
Anybody that didn't see what was on the letter, I can email it to you right now, or we can read it out loud. Anybody need to hear that?
No.
It's just basically what we talked about, very tastefully written.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple of selectmen here tonight, which is fantastic. I'm glad that you guys are taking an interest in what's going on. And it sounded like last night at the selectmen meeting, for anybody who doesn't know, it sounded like there was some effort put into moving the needle forward on repairing the roof and repairing the air handlers, not replacing either one. Is that correct, guys? Did I hear that properly?
I believe so.
Okay. So that's still outstanding to write up the warrant articles. I assume there's plenty of time to get it on the warrant for town meeting. And we still feel strongly that that stuff needs to be done no matter what we do at the building. And we will touch on that later. Any other discussion on that at this time? Seeing none, let's move on. Enrollment and funding discussion. So there was some great work done by Bobby and Tom Doust and Linda Ellis to get enrollment numbers. And I think they were all sent out to everybody. Everybody see those? If somebody needs to see them, I can email them out now.
Is there anything different than what I got for homeschool students? I just got pre-COVID and COVID homeschool students. I didn't see any other numbers. Were there any other numbers that went out?
Yeah, Bobby.
I sent out the full enrollment. It showed how many Phillipston students and how many Templeton students, K to 5.
Crystal, I'm
Okay,
going to forward that to you right now.
okay, thank you.
So you'll have it in front of you. Anybody else need it while I'm sending it?
Sure, send it to me again.
Yep. Anybody in the audience want to see it?
Yeah, send it to me again.
All right, you got it. Anybody else? Oh, yep. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I don't know if Bobby knows this, but those numbers, does that have the special ed kids
It
as
has
well?
all
Okay.
students.
Okay, so that includes the homeschooled students as well.
Homeschool students are not counted in our enrollment because it's not reported as, it's not reported to the state, and we do not get per pupil expenditures for homeschool students. So those numbers came separately today. So those are separate than the numbers I had.
And a perfect segue, because Tom was also able to acquire the homeschool students numbers. And if anybody needs to see that, I can send that out right now while we're looking at numbers. Did anyone see that, or does that need to go out to everybody?
I got that. I'm all
You
set.
got that? Okay. Anybody else? These are the pre-COVID and post-COVID or during COVID homeschooling numbers.
Can you send that to me?
I can.
Thank you.
The only thing I'm wondering on that, and of course it's only hearsay because the people aren't actually here to confirm that, those pre-homeschool and COVID, during COVID homeschool numbers don't sound 100% accurate. Only because I know personally of 2 people that switched to homeschool for COVID, and so it's only indicating one. Now, obviously that could be that some went back. There could have been some back and forth. But I mean, I know of 2 people right now that pre-COVID were in school in Phillipston and then went homeschool for this school year. And so it only looks like there's one change in Phillipston number, but I mean, I have known of more. So again, could be some went back or some moved out, and that could be why, but.
Yeah, my assumption would be that, right, that the numbers
Right.
moved, like kids that were
Moved, right,
homeschooled
exactly.
decided not to, that we can't account for,
Yeah.
which is which.
But obviously, it doesn't seem like much of a change from COVID to pre-COVID. So it doesn't seem like closing Phillipston was the driving factor in all those homeschool figures because there wasn't much change.
Okay.
I'm
And
hearing that the numbers might be off by 5 kids. And I heard that today after I sent that out to you, Rick.
give or
Whose
take in
numbers
either
were those
direction.
from? That I know they shouldn't be off if the district's keeping good
It was
track of the
from,
numbers.
it was from Susan Barney and she dated the PDF for April 1st. So I don't know if it's October count or March 1st count. And which is the district's count, which I'm not sure. And, but I know from in the school, from a little friend, that there were 5 more kids not accounted for on there. So it's, I'd say
So-
it's off.
Linda, I had your email up, but I think I lost it. Hold on one second. Oh no, this is from you. Did you send that out to everybody, Linda?
No, just to you. I forwarded it.
Just to me. Okay, so I'm gonna also send this out to everybody right now, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just so we're all looking at the same numbers, and if anybody has any questions, maybe we can address them. Hold on one second. Let me just make a new email here.
Could you please send out Bobby's numbers? I've got all the other numbers except for hers, and I don't know what I did with them. I know
I will
copied
send them. I will send them to you. Yes.
Thank you.
Please stand by just one second. I love Gmail because it knows who I want to add to the emails.
I know, without telling it, right?
They just keep popping up. So let me just send this one. Okay, that one's been sent. If I missed anybody, please let me know. And Tom, I will send you Bobby's numbers too, if you just give me a second. You know, next time I'll have them ready to just show them on my screen so we don't have to do this. I apologize. I should have thought of that. Okay, so everybody should have all of the numbers now. What do they all mean to us? Is there a way to get to figure a total potential number and then put a dollar value to that? In other words, I know that right now Phillipston pays Narragansett to take these kids. I assume there's a math equation that goes along with that, you know, where every kid is worth so much, and then there's state aid on top of it, right? And does the state aid vary depending on a student, just a regular student, or a special needs student? Is there more
Yes.
state aid?
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, there's more money if it's a special needs student. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into this. Unfortunately, we would need to know somebody that can help us kind of calculate, especially if we want to look at it as pulling out at the elementary only, because obviously we'd still have to pay something to the district for our middle schoolers and our high schoolers.
Right.
But we recoup whatever our elementary school kids, you know, and they don't go to Gansett. So we would have to be able to know how to calculate those numbers, you know, how to split busing, you know, the transportation fee. I did go through our old budget things that they presented over the last 2 years prior to the COVID year, because I wanted to see kind of like before Phillipston was taken off the map. And obviously they're not 100% accurate because we're in a new year now. But I mean, doing some of the figures, so they estimated fiscal year 21, which was what we're in this year, but they kind of guessed going into it because they knew where they were taking the kids out of Phillipston and they were putting them into TES. They're looking at, for Phillipston residents at TES was 84 is what they guessed. And of course the numbers that were just sent are pretty close to that. You got 78 K through 5 plus 9 preschoolers. So you're pretty close to that. So we're talking about 84 elementary school age children, roughly. That would be in our building as opposed to their building. Middle school, you're looking at, you know, 33, but that's figuring 5th graders too. Now I figured 5th graders in this other number, there was only 11 5th graders based on the numbers we were just sent. So, I mean, you take 11 out of the 33.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I just have a question on that before we get too far. The 84 includes the 11 5th graders?
Well, so we had 78 plus 9. So that is what? Quick math is 87. So 87 based on the figures Bobby just gave us.
Okay.
And that is pre-K through 5.
Okay.
That would be ours, pre-K through 5. Now, whether or not we want to include pre-K in our elementary school, given that there's usually a small amount, I mean, that again, that's for another conversation, but just K through 5, I mean, you're looking at the 78. But when they put their numbers together prior to the start of this budget year, they were estimating 33 middle schoolers, but they include grade 5 in theirs, because in their mind, the 5th graders are middle schoolers, which, you know, if we're going to do this, in a way, it'd be better to get our 5th graders back in elementary school if we can. So, I mean, you're looking at 22 middle schoolers and 68 high schoolers. So we are, you know, almost balanced, elementary versus middle school, high school. So it's like looking at half down the middle. But again, I don't know the formula. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many of the 78 kids roughly are special needs.
Right.
I
So
think
there's
an
a lot
easy,
to play in that.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom, please.
Oh, I think an easy way to figure that out, or at least the way I've done it, is you take the gross budget and you divide it by the total amount of kids that are going to school, and that'll give you a per pupil cost.
Yeah, an average, right?
And it's an average, but still it's something to work with. I know they do that at Monty Tech. You know, they take their budget and they divide it by all the kids, and it comes down to probably around $16,000 per pupil. It's a lot cheaper for regular school because they don't have all the heavy equipment and all the requirements like voc schools do. That would be one way to at least get an estimate.
And my understanding is the amount of money per pupil that we get, say, from the state, I thought it was the same regardless on whether or not you're a student with disabilities or not. Unfortunately, sometimes expenses can be more, but I'd have to verify that, because I know, like, for a school choice student, it's a straight number. I can't remember exactly what that is.
I've heard it multiple times during the school committee meetings. Dr. Cassavant referred to special needs funding, and that it is different than your standard. But I don't know that for certain. But there is a figure they talk about that has to do with the money that they get from the state based on special needs. And unfortunately, when they have to bust those special need kids out of our district, it does cost them a lot more money as well. Because it's better if they can fit their needs in our own district rather than send them out. But they have to do whatever's best for the student regardless.
Right, and
So
we would have to do the same thing.
DESE has our per pupil, this is our expenditure. This is how much it costs Gansett per student, is $13,447.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't tell
What
me
that
what you get for it. It's $13,447 is what DESE has as our per pupil expenditure.
So that's $1 million. When you multiply it by 87 students, right? I get 1.1 million. Is that right? Somebody else with a calculator?
So then tell me why they're charging us 1.6.
They need a
Interest?
We know why.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's good. So that gives us, you know, an idea of what kind of funding would be available to us, at least an estimate.
So that's
Anybody
not
care to-
income, that's expenditure. That's saying how much,
I mean, that's how much they spend.
How
much we
it costs to
spend
educate
per
a
student.
child. Yeah.
and this
Okay.
is as of March 11th, 2021.
So we're looking at $1.2 million roughly.
So, I mean, but if they're spending that on kids, they're not going into the hole, right? They're not losing money. Is that correct? I mean, that's covered spending, right?
They're not losing money.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
they're not.
So that gives us a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with. Anybody care to go out on a limb and say that we can do it for the same price or cheaper in Phillipston?
You can do it for the same price or cheaper in Phillipston.
Thank you. All righty then. Is there, let me just check my notes. I think I just want to make sure we touched everything on that topic. So I have more information about possible funding. But is there any more discussion on numbers? It sounds like we did a pretty good job of getting an idea and maybe even a budget number to work with. Anybody else have anything else to add?
I was
questions?
just trying
Go
to do
ahead.
a quick figure
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
what it would be per student, basically based on our fiscal year proposed. I'm not looking at final numbers, but when they went in this before they shut down Phillips in the fiscal year 21 proposed, what they said our town was going to pay versus what they said how many students we had.
Okay.
Try to figure out kind of per pupil.
Well, we will pause for a second, and I will ask the audience if they have any questions while you figure that. Are you working on that, or is that something you're going to do later?
No, I'm working on that.
Okay.
So
Is
I
there any
mean,
questions? Go ahead.
I've played with these numbers in the past, just kind of, and I've been told it's not perfect math, but it gives us an estimate. But from the looks of it, I mean, if we added all the students, that's including high school, middle school, and elementary school that are considered Phillipston residents for fiscal year 21, that was proposed, may not be actual, but it was 185 students. The proposed amount that Phillipston had to contribute for the fiscal year 21 was 1.6,886,196. Okay, you take those numbers and you divide them down, you're looking at $9,114 per pupil, and that's looking at our minimum contribution that's set by the state. Our transportation costs that they claim that we have, and they call it additional appropriation, whatever that breaks down to. But that's what
Well,
they
that's
have for us.
That's a
From-
fully encompassed number. That's what the cost is for.
That's what they wanted Phillipston to pay for the proposed fiscal year 21, saying that's what our cost was. And based on the 185 students that they said we had, we were at 9,114 per pupil.
9,114. That's awesome work. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add on enrollment numbers?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
I
drop
didn't
it.
look at Betsy.
Hold on,
Bobby, did you get-
we got two people going at once. Hold on one second. Linda, please go ahead first, and then Bobby, please, right after.
Bobby, did you take a look at the DESE website and see what they have for account for students? Because some of our students could be in out-of-district placements, and some of those kids go to school up to age 22.
Right, but
How
I
many-
wasn't, I guess I need to know the question because I wasn't looking, I was only looking at number, I only asked for the K to 5, like enrollment numbers.
Yeah,
So if they're enrolled with us as one of our students, they should technically be within those numbers.
you would think. I think I'll email Susan again and ask her how many Phillipston kids are out of district in their grade levels. Because that's a lot of money, usually.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense because we would end up having to take that over.
Yep, but you also can recoup it if it's over a certain amount, depending upon placement,
Right.
including transportation.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that information. That's wonderful. I love having you guys here because it makes my life much easier. Is there any other comments on enrollment?
I just want to say that the pre-K also pays much more than normal.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we had a lot of school choice kids too.
Right.
I think pre-K
Yeah.
is actually kind of somewhat separate for some of these numbers. I'm not 100% sure though, because I know they kind of operate individually. I mean, I'm not
One
100%.
thing we have to remember, I mean, this is not awesome with these figures and stuff, but we're talking about maybe taking on this ourselves. If we connected up with somebody like Peter Sham and Royalston, Now there's going to be a lot of services that'll be shared. Probably be one superintendent, one principal, maybe a couple, three low-level administrators, and so might even cut our per pupil costs lower as a group. And then, of course, supplies buying and busing and stuff would all be shared. The more I hear about this, the more I think, wow, this seems doable, especially if we hook up with another town.
It's a great idea. Let's revisit that in 2 more agenda items.
Sounds good to me.
So is there any other comment on enrollment? Seeing none, I'll ask for questions from our audience. Anybody have any questions or comments on enrollment, current discussion? If somebody sees a hand up and I miss it, please just let me know. Okay, I don't see any. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, this is called enrollment and funding, this agenda item. I had an email conversation with a woman named X-Ann, and she contacted me after hearing that our building was empty and has a lot of credentials in early childhood education and is extremely interested in opening a preschool in our building. Again, I just had email conversations with her trying to understand what her idea was. She didn't really have any other than she wants the opportunity to open this preschool. And so when I floated back to her a couple possibilities as I saw them off the top of my head, and this is where I want you guys to help me out. I floated back the option of potentially bringing her in as an employee of the town or of a school or of a 501c3 that we create, and handling it that way and allowing her to run her preschool program that she's currently running, just on a bigger scale, or having her organization rent space from us in the building. Now, I don't know if either one of those things are possible or legal or achievable, but this is definitely could be a revenue stream for the town. As I mentioned to several of you before, and anybody who will listen, is that daycare is really expensive. We had a very good deal for my daughter with daycare, and that was 2 years ago now, and it was $800 a month, and that was one of the cheaper that we were able to find. So if we were able to do some type of program like a daycare / preschool at $800 a month per student, that money's going to pile up pretty quick, and this building turns into a revenue stream, which I think would help alleviate a lot of concerns that people have around town regarding the taxes that are going to be spent on the upkeep of the building and on this program. Any thoughts on that? No thoughts, just that we should do it?
Well, I'm going to throw myself under the bus. We've got to let these people know. I mean, if you're going to have continuous discussion with this woman, you're going to have to let her know. She might be thinking all the whiteboards and all the desks are still there and a lot of other things are still there. She's got to know that it's an empty room. I think we should pursue it further. I mean, it would be a good idea. The other thing is, how much space does she need?
Right. Yeah, these are all good questions. My next step, Tom, in thinking was that I would invite her to speak with us as a committee.
Awesome.
Instead of taking that on myself and trying to remember all that and phrase it properly. But instead, what I was looking for, I think, is what does the committee feel about the idea and the possibilities of potentially, I think we would have to open a 501c3. I don't know if we can have a town-run daycare. I don't know if that can happen. Or renting space. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. So Tom Speck, please, you have your hand up.
I just, I was sitting here thinking, if she's just going to use, let's say, one of the big rooms and the gym, for playing and stuff, we could still move forward and investigate bringing our kids back
Yeah. Well,
and somehow
yeah.
working with her to take care of the pre-K, et cetera, et cetera. And who knows? I mean, you said she's got a lot of credentials. I mean, is she certified elementary ed, certified preschool, et cetera, et cetera?
So, those are all great questions. She listed a bunch of credentials and how long she's been kind of doing her own daycare and preschool. Actually, preschool. She was less interested in the daycare portion. I kind of pushed that on her a little bit, but she was willing to take that on. And, we can talk a little bit more about that. But I think that those are all great questions, and we should definitely talk to her as a committee and question her and interview her and whatever you want to call it. But again, fundamentally, is this possible is what I'm looking for. Tom Doust has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Hey, so two things come across my mind. The first one is if we're going to get kids back to PMS, and that's our main thought, I think that we might want to be thinking about after-school programs that could bring revenue into the school, because I think that we would increase our usage for the school. So I understand the idea of having pre-K and daycare. I do like the idea of maybe helping out Phillipson residents too that have young kids. But I think we really ought to focus, if our focus is going to be to get those kids back in school, then how do we maximize that revenue stream? I think by adding more time at the end of the day. And there's a lot of people out there that are dual income folks that need that time to have their kids someplace safe, someplace where they're going to get possible more education, and they're going to get socialized. That's one of my thoughts. Not to say that this woman can't help us get to where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great thought that I wasn't considering right at the moment was the after school portion of it. So Tom Doust, you're saying that maybe we should try and push this woman into an after school type program as opposed to if she would be willing.
I think that
or just
I think that
that
that's
should be
better.
the first step.
I think that she's probably going to be one of many people. As you know, we've been having a lot of people reaching out to us now that they know that there's a committee, and it seems that we're a pretty strong committee as well, very committed. I think that we're going to see other people reach out to us with other opportunities. Not to say that this young woman or this woman isn't going to be our person to go to, but maybe that's an option to relate to her, because remember our priority here. We want to get kids back into PMS, and we don't want to be competing with classrooms and things like that, especially if we do get those kids back. Yeah, the other thing is, and I know this can come up later, I know that Gerhardt and Bernie went to go see that school. I've only been in there once. Maybe the committee should get over there too as well, to make their own assessment. But that's a whole different issue. But that's my point.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you. Bobby, please go ahead.
Sorry, now I have to unmute. So just to piggyback kind of on what Tom Doust was saying. So I was the principal / everything for a small Catholic school, and our extended day program, we opened at 7 a.m. and ran till 5:30 p.m. And it was a huge financial revenue stream for our school. And when you run a Catholic school, like our school, I should say, it was 100% tuition based. We had no grants, we had no endowments or anything like that. And we were able, to run a school the size of Phillipston at less than $5,000 a student, and then we brought in that extra revenue with we had after school programs in addition to our extended daycare program.
Yep, that's great. I think Tom Speck was next, please. And then Gerhardt.
Well, I want to say, You know, Tom, Tom, Tom hit the nail on the head, and I think there's an opportunity here, and we've got some darn good educators, and Bobby being an administrator, so she knows those ropes, who can think about, if we, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm thinking, if we put an ad in the Phillipston newsletter, and we asked for 2 teachers who are elementary ed certified, who'd be willing to come to the school and put on a program. I don't know what time Narragansett gets out, 3 o'clock or whatever, but come over for at least 5 days a week and put on some kind of a program for kids, we'll say grade 1 through 5. And, they could be hired as employees of the town. So we'd cover all those things, insurance, et cetera. And if they needed supplies, I'm quite sure that the townsfolk would come forward. If they needed $50,000, $60,000, give or take, maybe $10,000 for some desks and some stuff to make the room educational. And boy, that really struck a note with me, Tom. And that would be one way for us to get our foot into this, and maybe get something running as early as September 1st.
Yep, it's a great idea. Gearhart, please go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking, I know this lady, she's a very good person, and smart too. And now with someone like that willing to make an investment in this community and turn around and help with our kids here, I think my feeling would be is that we at least make a motion towards letting this lady know that there's a good chance that she can further this process with us, as well as listening to everybody else. That I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I got too much going on in my head. As well as bringing in other people that show some interest. Let's see if we can't get them involved as well. But at least with this lady starting with the pre-K, get her in there, get it moving. And that way we can build on that. So the kids after pre-K are going to go into kindergarten. So, and then from there it's going to grow, right? So as long as we can get our kids at least in there, we can start the process. But if we just sit here and wait and say, let's get other people involved, yeah, that's great. But we shouldn't wait too long, because it takes a while to set this thing up and get things moving.
Those are good points. Like I said, as I see it, as an individual, I think these things could run at the same time. What's the word? Consecutively? Thank you. So I think that we could do both. I think that maybe a preschool, if you guys don't like the idea of daycare itself, but the preschool could be running in the morning, and then the after school program in the afternoon, and we could double use the space. And
Right.
And that's just, and maybe Tom Speck, maybe that's how we fund the supplies and the desks and the pencils for the after school program, is with the money from the preschool in the morning. I mean,
Sure.
it could, one hand can wash the other very
That'd be
easily. Linda Ellis, please go ahead.
I think you should look at every single option that you all have mentioned. They're all viable. And I think we should invite whoever is interested right away, let them hear what we're talking about, and move forward and get this thing going. We can do preschool and kindergarten by law. Kindergarten is not mandated in the state of Massachusetts.
So Linda, on that, how does that work? Does that allow us state aid for kindergartners? How does that work? How do kindergartners?
You have to be really careful, because if you're going to do state aid or federal aid, you have to do certain criteria. Like if you applied for aid from DESE, you would have to be a running public school. And with that, everything else. Like Bobby was talking about, she was at a private school, so you can do whatever you want there. But we eventually want to be a public school, so we can partner with other districts probably, we think, maybe not. This can really, really work. And the setting there is perfect for little kids, and it doesn't need a lot of work. It may seem like a lot of work. We've seen really bad schools. It's not there yet. So we just got to work together and we can get it done. But I think if this girl is interested, we should get her in here the next meeting.
Okay. We'll take a vote on that in a minute. Hold on, Tom. I'm sorry. Phillipston Emergency Management looks like. I'm not sure who that is, but please go ahead.
Hi, my name's Don Smith. How are you?
Hi, Don.
I just want to applaud your committee. There's a lot of dedication here, and I really feel, I've been a longtime resident here, and I really feel that you guys are heading in the right direction. I don't have kids in school anymore, but always wanted to see our school used as a school. As far as the tour up there, I'm very familiar with the building. If the powers to be is okay, and some night you want to take a walk through there, I'd be more than happy to take you guys through, because I know the ins and outs of the building, because I've been through there for the last 2 months, kind of keeping an eye on things. So I'd be
great.
happy to give you guys a tour, if powers to be are okay with that.
That's fantastic. If we were all going to go, we would probably have to post a meeting. So, but that's something that we can talk about a little bit right at the end of this, if you're all interested. Thank you very much for that. That's very nice to hear. Tom Dowse, please go ahead.
Yeah, I had heard something, and maybe I'm not aware of it. And I think I heard it in a select board meeting a while ago. Did Templeton take all the desks and chairs and things like that out of there?
No, I don't believe so. They took a whole bunch, but they left a whole bunch of the smaller stuff, which is perfect for us. And they left a lot of paperwork too. And my understanding is they only took the whiteboards and that stuff out of the new section. I don't think they took them out of the old section. Or chalkboards or whatever. They left a bunch of stuff. And if you need chalkboards, I have a few here that I can bring over there and donate. I collect a lot of stuff, I should say. So we should, it's a good idea, I think, that we should meet over there and take a walk through in the real near future, so we really know what we have.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom Speck, please.
I just wanted to know if that woman that has made the connection, if she's been in the building and seen what there is for space and how nice it is. And you know, there's another thing too to remember. Townsfolk of Phillipston here a while back, we were going to lose, I think it was an art teacher. And those of you who might be a little old, about my age, might remember that the townsfolk stood up and allocated her pay and expenses in terms of insurance and stuff. And we stepped forward, and I know there was a overture to Narragansett as they were pulling out, that we were willing to give more to keep the school open, and it fell on deaf ears. I don't think we'd have any trouble with the townsfolk supporting any endeavor that we have, we're going to go through and do. This is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Tom Dowse, please.
I never took the hand down, sorry.
Oh, okay. Phillipston Emergency, same situation, never took the hand down?
No,
Or do you have something else?
I have something to add.
Please do.
There are no student desks. There are plenty of student chairs. There are quite a few chalkboards, and there are quite a few whiteboards still in the majority of the classrooms.
Okay.
There's a lot of tables and stuff, but as far as student desks, there aren't any.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Well,
Thank you.
There's one. That's pretty much it. And there's a lot of chairs there, student chairs.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. You know, I'm sure we could figure something out. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
when
free
you take,
tables.
if you take a walk, sorry to interrupt, if you take a
No,
walk,
no.
through, you take a walk through, you'll definitely see what's there. Some rooms, there's a few rooms that are totally empty, and there's a half a dozen or so rooms that are full of a lot of different things. But when you guys decide to take a walk through, you'll see what's there.
Great. Awesome. Thank you very much for the input. Bobby,
You're
then Linda, please.
Two things. One, schools are going to start having tag sales on desks because every school invested in desks because of COVID, because they couldn't use tables. So when they can use tables again, they'll all be selling their desks really cheap. So anyway, that won't be an issue. Second, we would have to look at licensing because you'd still have to have some sort of licensing, even if it's a preschool, daycare, we'd have to go through EEC. So we have to just make sure that we keep that in mind. And then I know we're getting almost to the next agenda item. My other question is about making sure the building is up to code for that. My understanding is that some of the Department of DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, was contacted because there are no students in the building. So I believe there's an issue with drinking water now. There's also a water issue that we have to bring up to code. I was trying to get some information on that, but I couldn't get all the details.
Okay. So you're saying there's a water issue in our building? Okay.
Yep. So I think while we had students in there, we were grandfathered. Oh, good. Donnie raised his hand. Maybe he knows. But there's some issue with that, and I can't remember. I didn't get all the exact details.
Linda, if you don't mind holding for just 1 second, go ahead.
Yeah, Don Smith again. We had Whitewater in there last week. They're the company that's been hired by the town to test the water. I don't know what the results of that test was, but they were in last week. And they said that if, like we were talking about turning it into a shelter down the road, and he said if we ever went back to a school, there's an awful lot of things that has to be done in order to bring the water up to code and depending on the number of people in the building.
All right. Is that just drinking water? Could we get away with bottled water, and if we use the water just to wash hands and flush toilets?
I have no idea. I don't know how they work with the DEP or the schools or state law or how it works.
Okay, it would be interesting to know the results of that. Who is going to get the?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask who will Whitewater report to? Is that the selectmen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Or the CAO, but I mean, we hired him and I just happened to be there the day that he came.
Okay.
So he's coming back in another month to do another test. So he has my contact information. So hopefully he'll contact me again and I'll be able, and I'll try to ask him some of these questions and see, you know, where, but I mean, we can always go through the CAO and see if they can contact them and get some answers. But he did say that there's probably going to be a few hoops for us to have to jump through.
Okay. All right.
Has been shut down.
Good to know. Thank you. Linda, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting patiently.
No problem. The hoops shouldn't be too many because his last report only listed a couple of minor things that needed to be fixed, and that wasn't long ago. So you might want to mention that to him, Don, if you talk to him. I think they have a storage thing to store desks and things, and if they're not using them because they bought all brand new things to put in the new school, they didn't want old things over there. So where are all the desks? Like, what did they do with them? Maybe somebody can reach out and ask and say, we want some. And also, they have our laminator that was bought by the parents in Phillipston, and we want it back.
I'm getting that. That you want it back. We will make every effort to return the laminator to its rightful home.
I'm advocating, especially that would be great for the early childhood people.
Right. Thank you. Gerhard, please go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk about the Whitewater thing. So a while back when this process first started, we got a letter from, I don't know if it was Sue Varney or it must have been Sue Varney, from the school that said that they had let, no, somebody in Narragansett had let DEP know that the students were out of the building. With that, we received a letter outlining everything that needed to be repaired from either Sue Varney or the DEP directly. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was maybe spending, I was going to say at the time, which was last year, probably about $5,000. And that included hiring a testing firm. We did hire Whitewater, but I had looked at the paperwork, and we had actually been using Whitewater for quite some time, so it was quite interesting. Anyways, we've been hiring Whitewater, and they've been doing checks and stuff, and I find that since they just did the testing, they can let us know very shortly what we really need to do to get this all fixed. And so that should be on the next agenda as well. So if somebody can keep an update on that, like Dawn, Smith, if you can keep on that. And then as for the desks, my understanding was that they had some yard sales or something like that, and they sold a lot of that stuff off. And they sold it chalkboards, and they probably sold the laminator too. This is just probably why we can't get it back. And they sold tables, and they sold all sorts of stuff from the school. So they're at different locations throughout the local area. Good luck getting those back. So our best option would be to pursue purchasing some used ones from another location. That's just my input.
Yeah, thank you. For those of you who don't know me personally, I'm a very big fan of recycling old things. So I would love to see a building full of old tables, as long as they don't have lead paint. All right. Garrett, your hand's still up, but I assume oh, Timothy Haley, please go ahead.
Yes, as we're talking about or listening to this, it's back when they very first started talking about closing down Phillipston, and we threw extra money at it and everything like that. One of the superintendent's suggestions was, well, we could use it for preschool, daycare, pre-K, and there was a whole bunch of uproar about saying we don't want to glorify daycare. And so should he be included in some of these discussions saying that, well, maybe if it's a daycare, maybe we have to do that. And so that are they doing anything over there like that or anything? So do we really want to bring them into it or what? But it's something that it was brought up years ago by them, and so maybe they might want to be drawn into the conversation. But
yeah, so I remember that as well, where it was kind of hinted around that they might use it for a daycare. The difference would be that the money would come to the town and not the district. But are you saying that we should invite the district in on this conversation?
Whether yes or no, I'm not really sure, but it's just I wanted to bring it back up and say that was, are they still looking to do some sort of pre-K daycare type stuff, or do they have something going on over there? So
yeah,
if we start doing something over here and then they're still doing something over there, not really sharing a lot with us, then
yeah. So
doesn't always happen.
I saw a bunch of hands fly up, and I'm going to get to them. I just want to say personally, speaking for myself and not as a committee member here, the reason why this committee exists is because of their unwillingness to work with the town of Phillipston. And so personally, I have no interest in working with them. That's just my feeling. I'm only one person on this committee. I can very easily be outvoted. So I think I saw Tom Speck. I'm sorry?
I don't think you will be outvoted on that one.
Okay, thank you. I saw Tom Speck first, and then Tom Doust, and then Gerhard.
I just want to say I agree with you. You know, I'd say 90% of this committee is to look to either Phillipston pull out or Phillipston do our little kids with another district or something. And I think that would be the absolute last resort even call them and ask them what time it is. I think we're in a good direction here, and I think our next step should be to contact some of these people, and you know, and just to clarify, what they were looking to do was the pre-K, K, and first grade. And the thoughts were, is if they had the kids for pre-K, the parents who were bringing their kids from other towns would say, oh, this is pretty neat. And then they'd stay for kindergarten. And because there's, you know, a lot of districts don't have kindergarten. And then before you know it, the parents are saying, this is good. And they leave the kids in the system. Not that I'm advocating for us to do something like that, but I think the pre-K and K is what we should be going for if we're going to do it alone.
Okay. All right, Tom Dowse next, please.
Yeah, I just want to echo what all three of you guys had just said, that I don't think that we should be having Templeton involved in this at all, this discussion. They don't have the same priorities as us. And I think that we're only going to get things done if they're out of the conversation. It's disturbing to me too, to keep on hearing that, hey, they took this out of the school, they took that out of the school. This whole process, and I don't want to get into it too much, has not been a happy one for parents. And the idea of inviting them back in so that they can revenue share and then not have our kids there, I don't think that we should be talking to them at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gerhard again, please.
Yeah, my question, I was thinking, is there any way that we can have Bobby and Exan get email back and forth so they can find out what they're good at?
Yeah, absolutely. If Bobby's willing to do that, absolutely. I mean, I would suggest that we have Exan come in to our meeting and speak with us so we can have all our questions answered, and we can maybe think of some new ones. But I will tell you, this is not the only big news of the night. So we do have more to talk about, and I think it's a great idea to have her in, but we want to prioritize too. So
Well, I just wanted to add that I thought it might be a good idea that they would talk, because that way they could have some answers questions already answered by the time she comes in to give you, so that she's not put on the spot for a lot of it.
Yep, no, that's a great idea. Thank you. I understand now. Bobby, would you be willing to communicate with Exan and talk about preschool?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll get the information over to you, and I'll do an email introduction
Okay,
the best I can.
appreciate that. So can we move to the next agenda item?
I think we can, but I just want to make sure everybody has gotten their thoughts out and there's no other questions from the audience members. Okay, so, and the other thing is, it sounds like are we all in agreement that we should have Exan into a meeting maybe later? I think April is going to be busy, believe it or not. And so maybe beginning of May. I hate to put her off that long, but maybe we can get her in on another meeting. We'll have to talk about that at the end. And I'm making notes, so we're going to come back around on all this stuff, and we can glance over it one more time and figure out what we want to do for our next agenda. Is everybody in agreement? Linda, please go ahead.
How about if we invite her to just, link in and watch our Zoom the next meeting? So maybe
That's great. I was gonna do that this time, but I didn't want to drop it on you guys that way. So yeah, I would absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Timothy Haley, please go ahead.
One of the things is, with the town meeting coming up and voting, you might want to try to get her in there and talk to her before a lot of things get voted, saying that, oh, let's do this, let's move these people into the air, let's do all this sort of stuff before, next thing you know, there's not enough room in there for her to do that. So
yeah,
a quick introduction at your next meeting might not be a bad thing, just to get some balls rolling, and then also get it up to the selectmen, because ultimately I think it has to go through them before you can, offer her anything because you guys are just advising, not necessarily, you don't have any powers to say, here's a school, as far as I know. But maybe,
No, I think you're right, but we try to ignore that as much as possible.
yeah, and I know that as far as we were just mentioning the superintendent talking about the daycare because it was up there, and I imagine that other people would probably say, what happened when they mentioned it? Why didn't they go on to do it then? It may come up. So
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that heads up. And like I said, I would be happy to stand up and tell everybody that the difference is the money's coming to the town and not the district.
yeah, and
But
I'm willing to get rid of them altogether also.
good to know. Thank you very much for the input. I thought I saw another hand, but I don't at the moment. So let's table this for the moment so that we can move on. I think we all understand the thing here, and we can circle back around. There's a couple things I want to talk about right at the end of the meeting. So is anybody have any objection to that? Anything else to add? Seeing nothing, let's move on to the townwide survey discussion. Last week, Crystal had a fantastic idea of maybe sending out another townwide survey. I guess just what should be on it and how do we go about doing that? Tom Dowse, please.
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant idea by Crystal last week. And one of the things that also I would like to see is some type of list of parents. I don't know if we can possibly get that, so we can reach out to them and maybe start a newsletter so that they know what's going on. I know that we have a townwide newsletter, but specifically trying to inform these folks of what's going on so that we can try to get some involvement. I think it's great that we've got a group of people here, and we seem to be really pressing forward with some good information, some good energy, but I think we need to get the broader body out there. So I'm wondering if we can get maybe a list of parents. Thanks.
That's a great idea. Tom Speck, please go ahead.
You're really hitting the nail on the head tonight, Tom. That's a terrific idea. And if you'll remember, there was a Phillipston Memorial School's parents group. And I'm quite sure they'd love to rear their head and get involved and work really hard with us and maybe even take on some things of their own. And they'd probably be the best advocates that we could ever ask for. Somebody should be able to conjure up a list of who those parents were, that PMS parents group, and they could hit the road running right away because they know the problem, and they could even chime in at our meetings.
Yep. Yeah, there's actually a Facebook group for the Phillipston parents, so they'd probably be pretty easy to find, actually. That's a great idea. Gerhard, please go ahead.
My thinking was that maybe we should hold off just a little bit longer before notifying them because I'd like to give Dr. Casavant the least amount of heads up.
This is a public meeting and it will be available, so he might be watching.
Just saying.
Thank you for the input. I appreciate it. All right. If there is nothing else on this, I'd like to, oh no, I'm sorry. We already moved on to the survey. You guys got me all confused. So back to the survey. What should be on it? And how do we go about doing that? Do we still think it's a great idea? Does everyone think it's a good idea that's on the committee outside of myself and Tom Dowse and Crystal, because it was her idea?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, great. And any input on what should be on it? Maybe we can think about that for the next meeting. Really think on what type of questions now with the new information that we have. Crystal, please go ahead.
Here we go.
Can you unmute,
All right,
Crystal?
so I emailed Timothy Haley over the week because I needed to know the best. Well, actually, I emailed Flynn first And then he gave me Timothy Haley's email address because of the newsletter, basically, because Timothy Haley is in charge of the newsletter through the church. He prints them out and in a group of people get them together to send them out in the mail. They mail them at the beginning of every month. So we missed April because their goal was to send them out the beginning of this week. So April is gone. We could potentially get our survey into the May one if we were to act fast enough, get them printed out and get them to them before the end of the month again, so that they can be inserted in the newsletter, which is going to every house in Phillipston that they have on a mailing list. I also believe they were able to post it on the Phillipston town page, is what they did the last time. What I remember happening with the survey that they issued before, they did try to do a link online, but the problem was the stats you weren't able to hold it up for valid data because you couldn't match it to people's, to real people. You couldn't control who was submitting it. Because it was random online. Somebody from Templeton could have logged on and done the survey. So it's not really a valid survey if it's not really kind of focused on the group that we're trying to focus on. So the best way was to get it out in the newsletter and then have it dropped off at the town hall. And I remember that being, you either had to send it in or mail back or drop it off to the town hall so they could count the figures and use those figures, logically and have some sort of solid data that they had an easy way to track. And of course, we do need to figure out what we want on it. So like what kind of questions. So I think if we could have something ready to go, all the information that we want on it and ready to put one together, like I said, by the end of the month so that it could go into the newsletter, then we could perhaps have some of that information before the town meeting in May, so that when we stand up and have this conversation, we can say this many people support having an elementary school, or this many people want to withdraw from the district, or we can have those figures kind of to present at the meeting to help, people make decisions. So I think we should really think about what we want to put on the survey, good questions to ask.
Okay, that stirred a lot of emotion. We got a lot of hands up. Tom Speck first, I think, and then Tom Doust and Gerhard and Bobby, please.
Well, I was hoping that maybe we could get a copy of the results of the last survey.
Me too. I've requested them several times.
FYI, I like the idea of, let's get it in the newsletter and let's make it a hard copy thing. And they either drop it off at the town hall or they mail it to us. The final thing is I think it would be a lot more efficient if, rather than have the group of 8 or 9 of us sit here and iron out questions, just off the top of my mind, and this is, like I said, off the top of my mind, Crystal and Bobby and Tom, maybe 3 people, small group, or some other combination, makes no difference. Sit down and for our next meeting, have a list of questions. And that way we can bring it up on our agenda, talk about the list, and if we want to modify it or add to it, we can. It's not like we're creating one from the beginning and it's going to take a lot of meeting time, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. And maybe we could even email that subcommittee if we think of it. Tom Doust, please, go ahead.
Yep, Tom was sharing a brain tonight because I was going to suggest that we have a subcommittee, a small subcommittee that works on this for the next meeting. And I would be glad to volunteer for that.
Life is good when the Toms are on the same page. Crystal, actually, let me take Bobby again first, please. Go ahead, Bobby.
So my only thing is that, so I'm in the business of figuring out the easiest way for people to do things. If people have to fill out a paper survey, fold it, put it in an envelope, and drop it off somewhere, you are not going to get the results. What if we put a QR code in the newsletter? So the QR, it's still only going to Phillipston residents. It's not online everywhere. You put a QR code, they scan it with their phone, bing, bang, boom, Google form, it goes out and we have the data. And we can even
Great.
just have them put the street they live on in Phillipston. We don't need any more, but we could have a street or something, but at least then it's only going to newsletter people. You know, if people in
Yep.
Phillipston aren't going to be like, hey friends, look, fill this out. But if
Yep.
you have it, mail it and drop it off, you're only going to get the people that are already, we probably know about.
That's a good point. I would suggest if we do a QR code, we also maybe put a link just so that people who aren't
Yep.
savvy to get that. But I think that's a good idea. I think Gearhart was next.
Okay, my suggestion was that everybody in this meeting put together at least 3 questions and have them, and at the next meeting, we put them together pretty close and be done with it. It's the other option would be, the other thing I wanted to talk about is on Bobby's suggestion is that I have a flip phone, so there's no way I can scan the code. And and there's a lot of people like me, and I would actually ask that we find some other way, because there's a lot of senior citizens that either have landlines and have flip phones like me, or something like that, so that those people can also have their input heard, because they're going to be paying the taxes on some of this as well. So I think we need to, and they're probably a good bunch of them are in our favor.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, maybe it could be a combination where you can mail it, or you can go to the website, or you can't. And maybe the qualifier is your street address. And once that street address registers, you can't vote from there again. I don't know how complicated that is, but you know, we can work on it. Linda, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Gare. It's a great idea, Bobby, but there's a lot of technology challenged people around here. We're not there yet.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, if we gave them multiple options, I guess that wouldn't prevent somebody from mailing it in and then running to a computer. But I mean, how many people would probably go out of their way to do that? Tom, then Bobby, please.
Bobby, go first.
Okay.
I was
thank
just
you.
going to say, we were talking about more parents than the elderly when this conversation started, which is why I went in that direction. So, but I think if we do multiple ways, we can get everybody. But there's a way with the survey to indicate online, like, so you only can do it once.
Yeah, right. I just want to tell you, this committee is dangerous. You guys are on point. Go ahead, Tom.
I just want to point out, you know, you shouldn't discount the elderly folks, because 90% of the time they've always come out and they've always voted for, no matter what it was, whether it had something to do with the school or it had something to do with whatever. And they were always there, and they were always willing to come out and support, especially education. They were always there. You talk to them about an override, no problem. I'm for the school, we'll do the override. I'm voting for it. So don't discount them. You know, remember, they've had kids that have gone through the system, and you know, they have memories, and especially about Phillipston Memorial School, and they have feelings in terms of you know, Templeton and other school systems and hooking up. So don't discount them. I've seen them come through many a time on the town floor.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. We definitely need everybody, all the hands that we can get. Speaking of hands, Linda has hers up. Please go ahead.
I know that a good place to get signatures for things is at the town dump. Maybe we could have a box there that people can deposit their newsletter survey there or something, or at the town hall. I don't know. Try to make it as simple as possible, but not complicated.
Yeah, these are all great ideas. Timothy Haley, please go ahead, and then Tom.
One of the things about that also is that the senior citizens or the older folks are the ones that, even if it was a blizzard, they would make sure that they got up there and got their survey into the mailbox, because if they wanted to do it. A lot of the other people may not make that effort, but they would make the effort if they wanted to be heard. Whether they can do it on a QR code or they can do it driving up there, that they would do that. If you want to get something in there, I'd like to have it by the 23rd. And whatever it is, if it's 1 page or a half page or whatever, a sheet, I can print it as opposed to making an insert. However, it, whichever way it is, just, whatever you want to do. If you had an idea of how much it was going to be, we need 675 copies to go in the newsletter. That's how many we send out. And whether sometimes it's just as easy to run them off all at the same time, and when they get folded rather than having to stick an insert in. And we do legal size paper, so however that wants to figure in as to how big of a survey it is. And if we get it on the 23rd and I print it up on the 23rd of April or that weekend, it would go in the mail and it would be possibly in their mailboxes on either the 27th or the 28th. And I don't know how much you'd get back and what sort of compilation you'd be able to do by the 5th of May. So just that's the time frame you're looking at. Is it probably wouldn't be in their mailboxes until the 28th. And then would they be able to get it back in time? So because we run the newsletter until after the 23rd.
Yeah, that's good information. So that would mean, everybody, that we would need to settle on questions by the 14th, which is our next meeting. So we would have to be all done with the questions, but at that meeting. But it would be a good chance to get a narrative out there too before town meeting. Tom Dowse, please.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, and I heard some good stuff there. So I understand the whole idea behind not excluding the senior citizens. We gotta make sure that we reach out to them. But I still like the idea of maybe combining the two things, having a subcommittee, getting a lot of questions, and like Gerhard said, everybody comes up with 3 questions on their own. I'm worried about duplication of effort though, and then maybe Tim can tell us, do we need to give the newsletter any money for printing or anything like that? And then I heard what you said, Gerhard. I don't want to give that guy any information that we don't have to. But if we could get those addresses somehow, if anybody has an idea on how to get those parent addresses, I think it would be great to get the surveys directly to them and get their feelings on this. Because they're the ones that are going to be having their kids in the school, and we might get an overwhelming response from the parents that say, no, we're very happy with Templeton. I doubt that, but I think that we need to focus on them as well. So in other words, a broad range, hitting a wide shotgun effect. Anyways, that's it.
No, I agree. Gerhard, I think, is next, please.
Okay, so I want to mention that the mail is much slower in the recent days. We can't count on something going out. 3 weeks ago, I mailed a letter from Baldwinville to Winchendon, and it took 21 days. I'm serious. Somebody else mailed something from Gardner to Phillipston, a check for mine. It took 19 days, okay? So we have to take that into mind, that the mail has significantly slowed down. And then about the parent addresses, I don't know. I think we could either contact Karen Foley, the town clerk. She may have that information because she collects a lot of that stuff. And she may also be able to collect these letters that come in for us if we wanted to have them mailed in.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if we have them mailed to town hall, she can collect them and put them aside, and we can collect them from there. Or so we designate somebody in here to get them, the surveys.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good idea might be to have multiple ways to accomplish this, with a QR code, a link, drop it off at town hall, mail it in, and we'll get as much as we can, as quickly as we can. Tom Speck, and then Don Smith.
Let Don go.
Okay,
No.
Don, please go ahead.
Yeah, we have a street list, a public street list, and that gives out a lot of information.
Does it have who has school-age children on that list?
I'm not 100% sure. I know there is a list that gives occupations and students and things like that. I can't remember which, I can't remember it is. I just took my street list up to the office because I had one here. But yeah, I'll take a look at that, or you can check with Karen. Karen's definitely a resource you should hit. She definitely can help you with that.
Okay. Tom, do you want to go, or?
Yeah, no, I'll go. One thing I want to point out, and I don't have any of the figures right at hand, but Bobby should be getting something as a clerk. And I know the Phillipson Memorial School Building Committee had monies allocated for clerk and expenses. And if we need to tap into that, Phillipson Memorial School is the same as Phillipson Memorial School Education. And hopefully we could use monies out of there. And, for clerk, and if we needed it for expenses, or if we wanted to put an ad in the Athol Daily or whatever. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And I agree with Tom, we should get, I appreciate the other people saying, 2 questions per person, but that's going to get cumbersome. I think we should move forward right now and decide who's going to be on this mini committee. And like Tom already said, he's going to chair it. And, get those folks figured out and have them bring some stuff back, which doesn't mean that we can't come up with questions, but I think I'm going to leave it up to the experts on that committee and come up with something.
Okay, that's good. Let's get through the hands, and then we'll come back to that. Timothy Haley, and then Bernie, please.
All right, Bernie was first, but I'll be real quick.
Okay.
If you're talking about 3 questions each, I hope it's narrowing down, because I know that after about 3 or 4 questions, I'll give up on the survey. So short and sweet would make it really good. And as far as someone asked about how much money it costs or whatever, you can throw all your money you want at the church. We'll take it all. But for the town, for this, there wouldn't be any charge.
That would be
And
great. Thank you
also,
very much.
the street list doesn't say who has school-age kids. It just gives their date of birth. And if you wanted to go by that, saying, well, they're young enough to have school kids, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't break down who has kids.
Good info. Thank you. Bernie, go ahead.
Okay, I was under the impression that the street list had the children listed as students in the list. So, Tim, did you look at the list?
Yes, we have the list right here, and it says residents and students over the age of 16 is what's
Okay.
listed.
Then it's okay. Then it's not going to be how forward I was thinking. Thanks.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay, Tom Speck, please go ahead.
A quickie, the quickest way to find out about that parent group is to get a hold of one of the teachers who used to teach at Phillipson Memorial, who are still teaching up in Narragansett, and call them up. I'm quite sure there was a few of the teachers that were very involved in that group and that committee, and they could tell you in a heartbeat who they were, and maybe even help contact them and get that motor running. Be the easiest and quickest way.
Good idea. Linda, I saw you next. Please go ahead, and then Gerhard.
Maybe contact the former principal.
I just did.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie.
All right, thank you. Gerhard, please go ahead. Oh, okay. So it's almost 8:30 here. So it sounded like Tom Doust was willing to be on this subcommittee. Crystal, would you like to be on the subcommittee because it was your idea, or do you want nothing to do with it?
It's fine if I don't know exactly how we're gonna go about this, if we're gonna just do a private
assume-
Zoom, email, however we're
Yeah.
gonna do it.
I mean, you could do a Zoom, you could do it through email, you could do it on the phone. I mean, I don't know if 3 constitutes are they allowed to meet without posting it? If there's 3 of them, isn't that a quorum?
I don't know what
Anybody?
the.
I can check with
are.
Karen. I can check with Karen before you guys get started. And then Bobby, I saw you with thumbs up. Does that mean that you want also to be on the committee? Okay, so there we go. There's our subcommittee. Do we need to vote that?
Even if it's a matter of Tom getting an email with us together and say, shoot your questions out, and then, compiling them so
Well,
that we
even
present
through
them.
email, a quorum can't have a discussion because that would be a violation of the open meeting law. So
Right.
I hate to say that you may have to post it, but let me check with Karen and find out how that can work. Do we need to vote to create the subcommittee? It's probably a good idea. Anybody? I move. Yeah?
I second the vote.
Okay. Thank you. I move that we create a subcommittee to create a survey for the town newsletter
Second.
by the 14th. Now I'll take a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I didn't put the people in the vote, but that's okay. We all know it's recorded, so you guys can't get out of it now. Let's move on for the time being. And like I said, so on that, I will contact Karen and find out what the open meeting regulations are. And then I will send the 3 of you an email, and we will go from there. The next item on the agenda is potential partnership updates and discussions. So, boy, it's 8:30, so I want to try and do this as quick as possible, but I also want to answer all the questions that everybody might have. 2 years ago, when Narragansett threatened to close Phillipston Memorial School, the first meeting that I got up and spoke at when I was upset about it, I think it was 2019. I started reaching out to communities around us to have discussions about what they were doing and how they felt about their situation. One of the people that I ended up communicating with is a woman named Lynn, who happens to sit on the school committee in Petersham. At the time, Petersham was very interested in coming to talk to Phillipston about the possibility of us joining forces. They're not happy with their situation in Orange, and they were very interested at the time. I kind of reported that up the ladder, not really understanding the dynamics that were happening in town at the time, and it didn't really go anywhere. Recently, after our last meeting, I sent Lynn another email, and luckily she's still on the school committee. They are still interested in speaking with us, and they bring Warwick with them because they're already in discussions. So that's Petersham and Warwick willing to come to the table to speak to Phillipston about the possibilities. I suggested, I floated out there that they come to one of our meetings, or maybe we have a special meeting just for this purpose. But just for everybody to kind of get to know each other so that we can discuss the possibilities. And then nothing would really be resolved at that meeting. We wouldn't come to any great epiphanies, but you never know. And then on the same topic, Tom Doust, if you will, unmute and let us know how things are going with Royalston if you have anything to report. I don't know that you do.
Yeah, I do. So full disclosure, prior to getting on this committee, Rick and I have 2 daughters of the same age. So we had kind of talked about this when this whole thing had started. And I know some folks down in Royalston, and I had floated the idea quite a while ago. I said, what is Royalston's situation? And they're somewhat happy, but not extremely happy with Athol. So I did put a feeler out, and we got a response. And we got a response from somebody from my understanding, is very involved in the school over there. Their situation is different than ours. They actually have Athol students being shipped to Royalston, the reverse. That school has often gotten awards, and they have a very strong participation from their parents and teachers. It's a very tight-knit community, and they have expressed some interest in at least starting a dialogue, talking about priorities and maybe regionalization. So that's where that is.
So that's all around great news, in case you guys, were confused by any of that. Basically, the report on that is that Petersham, Warwick, and now potentially Royalston are interested in meeting with us to discuss the possibilities. And when you throw Phillipston in there, that's 4 elementary schools, and with towns who have similar values, who are trying to do the same thing, keep their elementary schools open, and who are being threatened by their districts. Maybe not Royalston, but certainly Orange and Warwick, of course, has already left their district, which is good for us because there's already a blueprint. So we don't have to really recreate the wheel. We could just kind of follow in their footsteps. But they are interested in meeting with us in April to have that preliminary discussion. Gearhart, please go ahead.
Would that entail us pretty much becoming part of a co-op?
So the way that the emails went, and I've only spoken to Lynn on the phone a couple times, a couple of years ago, the way that the emails went, again, would be this first meeting would just be kind of a feeler. Everybody kind of gets to know each other. Let's talk about what we're all trying to accomplish and see where everything, see what parts line up and where we can help each other. The impression that I get from Warwick, I got a response from them after I was introduced through Lynn, is that Warwick and Petersham are actively negotiating with each other, or discussing, let's say, not negotiating, discussing a union between these two towns. They were more than happy to welcome Phillipston into that fold, and we are more than welcome to welcome Royalston in as well. So I wouldn't anticipate any solutions coming from this meeting, but you never know. Everything might just fall into place and everybody agrees and we're all great friends and we move on from there. But the first step would be just to get everybody all in one meeting so that we can talk.
Sounds good.
Linda, please go ahead.
Legally, it would probably be called the union is what the technical term would be. And it would be really good for the town of Phillipston and Petersham and Warwick and Royalston if we could do that.
It appears that there's at least an opportunity. Is there any more questions on that? I expected a lot more discussion. Gearhart, please go ahead.
Yeah, you do understand, though, that Casavan is going to fight us tooth and nail for these kids, right?
I understand. Luckily, that's not my fight to be had. We have to make sure that we are not bound by the regional agreement in any way, shape, or form, that we're free to be mobile on this topic. I think Bobby was next.
So yeah, and I contacted the Department of Education and got the same, I think, regional agreement that you got, Rick, which is from like 1977, which yes. I believe is currently open, which means it can be amended. So that gives us that flexibility to do that. And I have reached out to the regional governance coordinator to find out what the logistics are for elementary schools trying to come together to create their own union. So I'll get those details from the state, hopefully.
That's fantastic. On that, I will say, I remember a school committee meeting where the Narragansett brought in, I don't remember the acronym, but it was a group of that was supposed to help communities and regional schools get along and work together. And the chairperson of that was, I'm at a loss for her name now. She was the superintendent at Quabbin for many years while I was there, Maureen Marshall. And Maureen Marshall came and talked, and she warned Phillipston, oh, gee, you don't want to leave the school district because DESE wants regionalization. Well, guess what? This would be regionalization. So I think we've got a foot to stand on with the state as well. So, Crystal, I think you were next. I lost track. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, the acronym you're looking for is MARS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
because I was at that meeting, I saw her speak. So I was at that meeting, and they basically anything west of 495, they want you to regionalize because Boston doesn't really want to send money our way.
Yep.
And that's what it boiled down to. So this is definitely a good thing. I did a little research. Again, I'm not sure where the numbers are as far as valid goes because this is all information I found online, and some websites don't update right away. But I mean, Warwick shows that they're kindergarten through 6, and they had about 60 students throughout their whole school. Royalston shows K through 6. Again, I don't know if that's still valid because I know schools change around sometimes. But then they're showing about 139, but I do know that there's a lot of Athol students. I guess there's kind of like a lottery of like who gets to go there. And of course, everybody wants their kid to go there, but only select people get to go. That's how Royalston works. Cause I know people that live in Athol that really hope their kid got to Royalston and they didn't get to go because they weren't picked. It's like a lottery thing. And then, of course, Peter Sam shows also K through 6 at about 116 students. So does that mean now we look at K through 6 ourselves in Phillipston? I mean, if everybody else is K through 6, should we be K through 6 so that all our activities align with the union that we're in, if that's what it goes to? I mean, it sounds like there's strong numbers when you put us together, which is what the hope was. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no,
there is
please,
my,
go
there's just my only caution with that. So, and I can reach out to the principal of all those schools you just mentioned to get enrollment numbers if you need to. But when I was the principal at Royalston, the kids from Royalston had a hard time integrating into middle school in Athol because everyone else went in 6th grade and then the Royalston students came in 7th grade. So we just need to think about the well-being of our students at the same time, because then friendships and bonds and social groups are already created before those students enter. That's my only caution.
And I agree.
Okay. I'm just going to go in order here because I've completely lost track of who had hands up first. So Tom Speck is the next one on my list.
I just want to say quickly, just recently, probably within the last week, give or take a few days, I mentioned somebody was saying, oh my goodness, that committee that was formed to relook at the agreement, everything seems to be Templeton wants. And I reminded them, because I went to the meeting when they had the clowns up and had that circus in the library. And they were talking about, oh, we're going to set up a committee and we're going to run the committee and we're going to charge the district $15,000, et cetera, et cetera. And the final approval was at an annual town meeting by each individual towns. So if our representatives get up and say, this agreement sucks, don't vote for it, then we don't vote for it. And I just think, we have a tremendous lot of power just in that, in terms of any kind of agreement that's being made. And we can say, no, we want to see it really easy to pull out, let you know in a year, and we're out of here. And if we leave kids up at the high school, then we'll prorate how much we're going to pay for each one of those kids. But just remember, we've got an awful lot of power when it comes down to finalizing that quote unquote new regional agreement.
Right. Great. Thank you. Linda, please go ahead.
Bobby, did you speak to Christine Lynch
For what?
at DESE? for the regional agreement?
No, Michelle.
Michelle, okay, she works with her. All right.
Yeah,
They also,
Michelle Griffin is the regional governance coordinator. And the
Yeah.
other one is, is Chris Lynch.
okay. Also, 1977 is the one that they had on file, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Now, Templeton thinks it's the newer one,
It is
but
not.
it is
Well,
1996.
1996?
Yeah.
I
Did you
think
find
that
the
might have
other-
been, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Well, you guys keep talking, but I think it might have been the 1977 agreement might have had a stamp on it that said received in 1996.
There is a 2004 copy going around too.
Yeah, that one.
Not the DESI one.
No, I know it's
the
not,
one
but there's one that was going around. It was provided to me from one of the school committee members a couple years ago when it was in discussion.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it, and that's what I was sent. So I think they were thinking they were going off of that one, 2004. And
It was never ratified.
yeah.
So, also, any kids that wanted to continue at Narragansett, they could just tuition in. And there's already, that's part of the agreement we already have with them. And that's for any other town around the area. They can tuition in.
Just
That's
on that.
Yeah, that's not
I'm sorry.
100% accurate. I'm sorry, Rick.
No,
only
go ahead.
because It's only valid if a school chooses school choice. If we're out of the district, they don't have to guarantee us a spot if they don't want school choice. And currently, the last 2 years, Narragansett has closed school choice. So
But if our students are
on
already
that
there,
hope that they would open school choice.
right, but to get out of the agreement, okay, there's a lot of technicalities to handle. And part of it is business aspects of it is monies with retirement and insurances that you have to continue to pay for teachers that we hired as a district. And also part of that could be the tuition agreement that is already in agreement, and it's not considered school choice. That's different. Gerhard, did you talk to anybody about that 1977 regional agreement? And that's my last thing.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where she's going with that.
The lawyer.
I have my hand up too.
Did you talk to the lawyer about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go into that next.
Okay, hold on one second. Tom Dowse, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's going way back in a conversation. I heard what Gerhard had said about Cassavant and that he's going to fight us tooth and nail. Gerhard, you've been our champion on this. You really have been pushing forward on this. I want to tell you, I don't know how the other people feel. I'm behind you 100%. If he wants to come after us, let him. Let him. Because we're going to fight him tooth and nail. That's the way I feel. I don't know how other people feel. I just wanted to make that known.
Thank you, Tom. Gerhard, please go ahead.
Okay, Cassavant is currently in the talks with the committee to update the regional agreement. Every meeting that I've gone to, I missed the last one. I think Linda might have been there.
Yeah.
But every meeting that I've gone to, Cassavant is the one changing the agreement to anything that he wants. Right now, he wants pre-K through 12 from both towns in his school. So we have an opportunity to say that's not going to fly. We have a lawyer that's involved with this. We have hired him. He's now involved with it. I gave him information for the April meeting of the RAAC, whatever, meeting, and he hopefully will be allowed to join that meeting so he can hear what's going on and be a little bit more involved with that. The school committee in both towns right now, which are our representatives, are both at the working at the leisure of Casavant, so our representatives are terrible in that department. And if we were to put a full school thing into that building, we would need a new commercial kitchen. We need to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also the sprinkler system, right?
I don't think we need the sprinkler system right away. I think we're still grandfathered on that a little bit because the school is still, we haven't shut the school down. We haven't shut that whole building down. And I think that was the reason why, is because the school building is still being used for educational purposes. There's scouts in there and there's other things going on in there, and that's a learning experience for the kids. So we haven't yet closed it down. And I think we may still be grandfathered on the sprinkler system.
Okay, good to know. Bobby, please.
But no one's going to watch this recording anyway, right? So I'll make you guys can be the first to hear that Bobby French is running for school committee.
Oh,
Yay.
fantastic. Congratulations.
All right.
Great job.
So all my social media stuff will be coming out. Rick, Tom, you can share it. It'll come out probably sometime next week, but
Yeah.
you heard it here first.
Great. Well, I think you have 11 votes anyways, the people here.
Yeah.
Building a future for our students tomorrow, today.
There you go. Love it. Tom Speck, please go ahead.
That's okay. You can let somebody else. Crystal, I think she had her hand up.
I think her hand is just still up, right, Crystal? Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
I'll move on.
Okay. All right. So, so here's what I would propose. We have 2 meetings in April. They were willing to speak with us in April. How does the 28th sound to you guys? Give them a little bit of time, meaning the 4 towns, to decide who's going to come, if they're all going to come, to line up their schedules. Gives them plenty of notice, almost a month, and hopefully they can work that date. Know this, though, we are working with a group of people who are not on the same schedule as us, so we may have to have a special meeting just for this, but I would propose the 28th. How does everybody feel about that?
Sounds good.
Fine.
Okay. All right. I will reach out to those towns, and Tom, if you would relay that to Royalston, it'd be great. And we will see if we can get that lined up for the 28th of April. And that will be an exciting meeting to see who's in the crowd. Okay.
Our next meeting's the 14th.
The next meeting I would propose to be the 14th. And then that possibly be the meeting that we invite Xanne to come and at least listen in. And if she's ready she can field questions. And if she's not, that would be fine too. But we can at least start that ball rolling too on the 14th, if everybody's okay with that. Yes?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I will reach out to her as well. Just making myself some notes here. Hold on.
I'm going to have to get a new notebook for all this.
I know. And then this is the towns. Okay. Any other comments on possible regionalization of, Linda, please go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That building is also handicapped accessible, and also the elevator has a state inspection due every year, and it's good till September 2021. We have a copy of that.
Great. That's great news. So that, and are you saying that because, does that mean that we could potentially host students from those other communities that have special needs that
Yep.
might need a wheelchair ramp? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, that's a good thing to mention at the next meeting. Gerhard, please go ahead.
Okay, the cost to have that inspection is about $200 to $300 a year, but that's only in the old section. There's no elevator in the new section.
Okay. And so, go ahead.
It's flat
Somebody-
there. The new section is flat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need an elevator in the new section.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments on the town discussion, potential partnership updates? No, we got more. Yeah. Okay, Bernie, please go ahead, please.
So I was on the school building committee, and Tom will probably back this up. Is the new section is handicap accessible, but part of the cost of the repairs, that $3 million number that was floating around before, included updating the older part of the building to make that handicap accessible, and the restrooms up in that area, the same thing. So when we try to sell it to another community, we should disclose that the whole school is not handicap accessible.
Yeah.
Okay, just a portion of it. The new portion is the ramp going up. I should say there's 3 different sections. The first section, the oldest section, is not. That's where the stairs go up, like 3 or I think there's probably like 5 or 6 stairs that go up. And then there was a section added, I think, in the 1970s. That's okay. And then the newest section that was added later on is okay. So just keep that in mind. It's not fully handicap accessible. Okay.
Yep. Is there still a school building committee? Because I was on that for one meeting and then COVID hit.
There is still a committee. We haven't dissolved the committee.
Okay.
However, we stopped meeting because, and you was probably there at the end, Cassidy kept coming in. He kept coming in and telling us that they weren't going to close the school.
Right.
And then subsequently they did close it, so there was no need for us to proceed. We're not going to bring big numbers to the town and ask them to approve if we're not going to use it for a school. So we're kind of like in limbo.
Okay.
We're not dissolved, but we're not doing anything, waiting to see what comes out of this.
Okay, great. Tom Speck, please.
What I wanted to point out is you mentioned sprinkler. You have to remember the progression of the school building committee. And we had retained an excellent, absolutely excellent architect who pretty much most of his work, and he had gotten awards for it, was UMass, colleges down in Worcester, all over. And not just, they were public buildings. But he said to us, and it was true, that if you spend so much money, a certain amount of money, then all these different things have to kick in. And what kicked in was the additional handicap. What kicked in was the sprinkler system. What kicked in was alarms and stuff throughout the whole building, which right now it's just part of the building is alarmed. And has fire protection in terms of alarms. And that just brings up a thought, Bernie and Gare, who's, when the fire alarm goes off, if it's still hooked up or being paid for, who answers the call? I personally have issues because I know there's money that's been allocated for this stuff. And I know the money's just sitting there. The Wi-Fi's now hooked up, the phone's now hooked up, and emergency management can back me up on this. The computer access isn't hooked up, and right now I'm questioning whether the alarm's hooked up.
Gerhard looks like he has an answer for you. Go ahead.
Okay. The alarms in town have not been used per the order of the CAO because touching it would spread the virus.
Change it.
So many hands touching it would spread the virus. So
Change
none
it.
of the alarms have been used in the town. Okay. Then we asked the CAO a while back to have the internet and phones turned back on to the school, but I believe it has not been done. That will need to be done shortly. I think we asked them again the other day. I don't know if it will be done until we put our foot down. So that's the situation there. Any other questions?
Didn't I just hear that the CAO's office is being moved to that building?
They'll get hooked up quick then.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I thought that's what I heard from your meeting last night, was that he was getting moved over there.
Possibly, that hasn't been voted yet.
Oh, all right. My information misunderstood then. I heard it was voted last night.
Let me ask you a question. How, are you in favor or against it?
Well, it'll get the Wi-Fi up there if we put his office over there temporarily. And it gets him out of that building. Oh, this is a live meeting. Sorry.
So we have Don Smith with his hand up. Let's move on to that.
As of today, as far as I know, the systems are not up in there. No Wi-Fi, no internet, no cable. The fire alarm without the phone service does not work. Know for a fact. So the phone service, that's out of my realm. The fire department is looking into that. They're going to, that's on their end. But that may need to be looked at, because without the phone service, the fire alarm does not work. And the building alarm is not activated at this time. There is still inside cameras, that video system in there, surveillance cameras are still working on the inside and on the outside of the building.
Okay, well, I can talk about that. I know that on the alarm, it doesn't need to have the phone wire hooked up, because a lot of them have antennas now, and they can be sent out through that method.
I know for a fact it didn't work.
Excuse me?
I know for a fact it didn't work the other day when we were there.
It did not work?
Did not work. You can check with Captain Seaman, and he can give you the report.
Okay, well, I think then we need to task the CAO with getting that hooked up. We have an American Alarm for the rest of the buildings in town, which is a contract I think we should also look at again in the near future. It seems rather expensive, but American Alarm could probably pick up this building as well, since they already have 5 or 6 buildings in town that they watch.
And the alarm system and fire alarm system is through the whole building. So all the doors are alarmed, and the fire alarms go into every room in the whole building. They work on the inside. It just doesn't go out from the building at this point.
There's a tone that goes off if you set off the alarm, but it doesn't notify anybody.
Right. The alarm system goes off. The strobe lights go off. I was there during the test the other day. And,
Was it loud?
oh, yes. Very loud.
Oh, so one of the neighbors will call it in.
Hopefully. Hopefully. But we were in there a good 4 or 5 minutes. He contacted dispatch, and they got no call back from the company. So we're under the impression, I'm under the impression, the system did not get through. The signal did not get through to the company that's monitoring the alarm system.
Okay. All right. We'll have to work on that.
All right, thank you. Linda Ellis, please go ahead. You've been patient.
There was a lovely report written by our cable guy from the Cable Commission that was dated August 2020, and it was sent to the CAO. And I also have a copy from the Cable Commission guy, and it says everything of what is in that place. And he said all it would take is a call to Comcast to get that going. Comcast Xfinity, because that's what we use for our town. That's our contract. So maybe instead of relying on the CAO, which I'm sure he's extremely busy, maybe one of the selectmen who are super nice and very efficient could call Comcast and hook it up.
Okay. Tom Speck, please go ahead.
You know, here we are talking about a building. All of our hearts are into it. And just roughly now for 2 months, it's set without an alarm, without phones, without any kind of protection. Homeless person could go in there and have a ball.
No, it's locked.
Well, it's locked, but I'll bet you with a good rock over there, I could get in one of the windows.
You couldn't.
Oh, you never know. Oh, a little olive oil. I think maybe I can slip in there.
Set off the alarm, that's for sure. Okay. Is there any more discussion on this topic, which is, where are we? We're still talking about potential partnership updates, and we somehow moved on to the building, which is new business. So we've gone already into, I was hoping to get a building condition update, but it sounds like we've certainly handled that. Gearhart, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to take my hand down.
No problem. So we've kind of settled the partnership thing, right? We're going to ask them to come in on the 28th. And then the last thing on the agenda was the building condition update. And my note just said, can we get them? Sounds like we've got a pretty thorough one. I will say some information that was revealed at the selectmen meeting last night, if you guys didn't see it, was that there are a couple tiles down, that the roof is actively leaking. Sounded like in the gymnasium and someplace else. So again, at the selectmen meeting last night, correct me if I'm wrong, selectmen, you guys are going to go ahead and try and get that patched so at least it stops leaking. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So let me just look at my notes. Everybody know that the superintendent will be in attendance at the finance committee meeting tomorrow night. If you didn't know, you know now. I would
Which
encourage-
superintendent?
I believe it's Cassavant.
Okay.
Maybe even Monty Tech, because we got
Ooh.
both of them on board tomorrow night.
Both will be there.
Great, thank you, Linda. And you have your hand up, please go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank you, Mr. Deegan, for volunteering to donate 2 basketball nets because they're missing at the school.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
we also need a school swing fixed so that somebody doesn't get hurt on it.
Maybe we keep hearing that there's money for heating the building and all kinds of things to do with the high school. Could we maybe tap into that to get the swing fixed? That would be great. Tom Dowse, please go ahead.
Yeah, yesterday I watched that select board meeting, and Linda, I want to say thank you for bringing that up about the swing. I've been to many meetings in Fitchburg where I formerly worked, and it would take probably 3 city council meetings to get a small swing fixed. And right away, the select board kind of addressed that. That's the difference between a small town and a mid-sized city, but I felt really happy to be here in Phillipston because of that. I'm real happy to be on this little committee too. I think we're getting a lot done. That's it.
Thank you, Tom. Gearhart, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down the next dry day and take a look at that swing and see if it's something I can fix. I got a lot of nuts and bolts and stuff on my van and see what I can do about it.
Thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Yeah, and I ordered the nets already from Amazon. They should be in on Tuesday, and I'll drop them off at the highway department. Red, white, and blue. Okay. So again, I would encourage you all to go to or attend the finance committee meeting tomorrow night and ask away all the questions that you might have regarding the upcoming budget. I unfortunately have to work tomorrow night, so I won't be there. The last thing I had on my notes is the regional agreement committee. So we kind of got an update from you guys, but going forward, I don't know how often you meet, but it might be good to just kind of hear where we are. And on that, I had a question regarding that. So Tom Speck said that if we don't like the agreement, we just vote it down. We say, no, we don't want that. Where does that leave us? Does that leave us grandfathered into the old agreement, or does that just leave us wide open where we can do whatever we want? Gearhart, please go ahead.
My understanding is that as long as the old agreement is not changed or ratified, it stands, which means that we are still in the, I believe, the 1977 agreement. And it's probably going to happen because my experience with dealing with the school committee and Dr. Kazavant is they're going to change the regional agreement to exactly what they want, and nothing that either town objects to is going to make it into the final cut. And the only options we're going to have left is to vote it down as a town. And I'm pretty sure that he's going to light the fire under all the parents to vote for their passing the regional agreement in both towns. So we have to be aware of that. Just saying.
Okay. Good to know. Linda, please go ahead.
You can also propose on town meeting floor a complete change to that regional agreement. You can, the same as Warwick did. Remember what Warwick did?
Can you refresh us all, please?
They just walked away from Pioneer. And Dan Sandin wrote a partial letter that stated, you know, we need to explore other options, and that's what we're doing right here. But we can state we desire to leave the district, and that can be done on town meeting floor. And that was told to me by a lawyer and 3 superintendents that are very good.
Okay, good to know. Gerhard, please go ahead.
Yeah, but that will be in a couple of months. We need to figure out what we're doing here first.
All right. So it sounds like we have a plan going forward. We're going to invite Exanne in on the 14th to at least listen. And if she has something that she wants to add, she'd be more than welcome. On the 14th, we'll also be looking for the subcommittee to deliver 3 or 4 questions for a townwide survey. And on the 28th, we anticipate hosting 3 other communities to discuss regionalization. Did I miss anything? Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to add?
I just want to say after tonight's meeting, I have a good feeling in the sense that we've got a handle on everything and anything that might affect the PMS situation. The agreement, getting things fixed, et cetera, settling up with other communities. Gosh, maybe this time next year we could move some of our kids out of Narragansett.
Great. I know that the regional agreement from 1977, when discussing withdrawal, we have to notify somebody by December, and the both towns have to agree to it. So that might be the challenge, but I'll leave it up to the experts to negotiate that. Timothy Haley, please go ahead.
One of the things we were just talking about was that when school starts up full time again, or whatever they're calling it nowadays, April 5th, I guess, that the after school program, a lot of the parents are, squawking about what are we going to do with the kids? We don't have after school, or now we've made all these arrangements of how we're living our lives and it's going to change. So that ought to be a big question on the questionnaire, or even before that, about after school program for the kids and the parents. There seems like there may be quite a need for that, and whether that's something that has anything to do with this committee or not, or it's just another thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good thought, and I definitely think it's something that the parents would use. I don't think we're going to pull it together by the 5th, but maybe by September we'll have it ready to go. Dawn, please go ahead.
When you were talking about the after-school program, back a number of years, maybe 5 or 6 years, my grandson was in the after-school program. It was only about 15 or so kids, but it was very well attended and was very well done. So there's been an after-school program up there years ago.
Yeah. And Linda, please go ahead.
I don't see why we can't start that earlier. I think that would be a great question. And also ask, would you want before school care too? Because I know that's people have been on Facebook looking for before school care. So those are 2 really good areas. Good idea, Tim.
Yeah, one quick question on that. Would that be a service that we provide free of charge to Phillipston residents? Or would there be like a tuition base to that? How would that work?
Tim, do you know if they were being charged?
I think that they did have to pay something for it. I'm not sure exactly, but there was, I think that our granddaughter was in there
Remember how much?
last couple of years, and I think there was something in, that they did have to pay.
25?
Last year.
A week?
Okay, Dawn, go ahead, please.
I believe it was $25 a week.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I'm not 100% sure, but I
Sorry, you
think that's what it was. It
you
wasn't
get
a
10
lot of
kids
money.
in there, that'll buy lots of Play-Doh and whatever else you can play with now during COVID.
I think that the $25 a week was many years ago. It's probably more than that now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was like, well, he's in 10th grade now, so back when he was in 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade, so 5, 6 years ago.
That's great. Good info. Linda, please go ahead.
Do you know what time it went till?
5 o'clock? I believe it was from after school to, I think, I'm not 100% sure. I think it was 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
The latest one was 5:30.
Okay, 5:30,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
I was going to say, it almost feels like it would have to go later than 5 for people who get out at 5. That's all fantastic. One other thing I wanted to mention, which I forgot to mention the first time we talked about it, is my thought is that if we have a preschool or a daycare or an after-school program or any of these things, that we somehow try to work in a discount for Phillipston taxpayers, just because they're already kind of paying into it. And I think that there'll be a demand for all those type of programs and people bringing their kids to Phillipston from other schools. And, you know, it would just be nice to be able to offer a discount to the parents who are already paying in. I don't know if we can work that out, but that's just my thought on that. Linda, please go ahead.
And also, if the bus is bringing our kids back over here, maybe we can cut a deal and say, with the bus company, of course, we could have an after-school bus drop-off at Phillipston School.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, 9:14. Anybody else have anything to add for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We will
Second.
reconvene on the 14th at 7 p.m. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll reach out to
Good job,
subcommittee
everybody.
members.
Yeah, good job,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.